Hello, welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis, and today I'm very grateful, very humbly joined by Adrian Domenico for the third time. Adrian, welcome back.
Thanks, mate.
I'll never
It's great
forget.
to
I'll
be.
never forget how I came across you through Dale, and Dale said, "Oh, you should interview Jason." And yeah, that podcast, man, I still talk about it. That was the one that set me off on where I am now, and to have
Mm.
you on three times is awesome. And yeah, I just never forget because I was laying in bed, hungover, I was high, and I'd fallen through a table as well, talking to three young girls, and then your podcast came up 3 hours later. And that was the end of that lifestyle for me, mate. So yeah, your podcast has been a big influence in my life, and I've said that a few times. And yeah, just
Thanks,
grateful
man.
to have you back on and another awesome chat. We had a good chat off air too. So how you been going? It's been 12 months. It's gone
Yeah,
quick.
I can't believe it's been 12 months. In my mind, it's been less than six. I thought the one before that was 12 months ago. But yeah, mate, I'm well. I appreciate you. I know that you've said a bunch of times that, the way that we sort of connected the dots to come together. Yeah, it's always an inspiring story, and it's always something for me that takes me aback a little bit because I really don't appreciate enough of like just how many people you can affect through something as simple as just running a podcast and just talking, like shooting the breeze with the people over the years. And so yeah, I mean, and of like I'm seeing here and you are there, like I'm not in any $30,000 podcasting studio. I'm just in my fucking lounge room, like it's very sort of backyard. I was saying the other day when I was interviewing the boys from the Here for the Truth podcast, like, oh, when's this starting? We'll start to talk about a few things in the podcast. I'm like, dude, we started. I don't do the intros anymore. I feel like I've just like done away with it. Dale's probably more of an inspiration. I'm thinking this bloke's wildly popular and he's in a fucking van or behind
Yeah.
he's everything's shaking and wobbling and stuff like that. So
He's
I'm
got
just
no
like,
tech.
I
He's
need to
got
do
no
it.
microphone. And when
Yeah,
he
that's
does use a
exactly.
microphone, he uses mine.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I said to him when I had him on the last time with Madeline, I said, with all due respect, bro, I love you, but can you fucking go in a room, all right, and like not in your van because he's like this, in the van, like just leaning up against the screen. I'm just like, please, I'm in my lounge room, but at least I'm in my lounge room, not a freaking car. And
Yeah.
he pissed himself laughing. He was like, that's the best compliment I could have had.
And
So
he
he
has
said, I'll
no
leave the
lighting
mic
either.
up.
You can barely see him. So,
I know. So
and the
I don't
sound's
mind that
horrible.
though. I don't mind it. I think I've got some plans for 2025 where I really want to take my coaching to the next level. I've got a bunch of things that I'm doing on a business side of things. So I think there's part of it that I want to. I don't want to run ads or I don't want to do anything that kind of says like, take AG1 or that shit like this program is brought to you by whatever. But I do have my own coaching and programs and the things that I want to share with others so I can make an impact and I can kind of, touch as many lives as I possibly can because that's part of my value systems. So I might do something by way of an intro, maybe change up some artwork and then introduce a couple of things to do with my coaching and membership and bits and pieces like that. But until this point, I'm just happy to rock and roll with things. So anyway, I
Yeah.
appreciate
Nah, you too, man. And it's awesome. I think a lot of us have a big 2025 coming. You know what I
it.
mean? It's going to be a huge year, and yeah, as we build into the back end of the 2020s, I still feel like 2020 was only like 2 years ago, and it
Yeah.
was four, nearly five.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's
Because
easy to get
yeah,
stuck in that time warp of things as well because a large part of probably both of our lives, and a lot of people listening would agree that it was such a dramatic and traumatic, and it had such an effect on our psyche and our the way that we live and our views of the world and our a very big paradigm shift. And
mm,
so it's easy to get caught in that world of the world's going to end, it's all doom and gloom, and there's nothing we can do about it, and these powers that be are just taking over, and we're in a battle, we're in a fight. And you can lose sight of the bigger picture and the things that are important, which is your mind and your body and your soul, your spiritual well-being, your family, your children. Like there's so many things that are still going on, and you need to kind of navigate through all of that, and whilst at the same time appreciate that there's something else going on. You need to be very mindful and very conscious of what's happening, whilst not diverting too far from your mission. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's been big with everyone too. Like I know for me, like I was living that lifestyle that we all used to live, right? And then it was, yeah, a table moment, and then a couple of other things happened. Throat sharkery. And then yeah, and it's like everyone has those moments where they can make that shift. I feel like everyone like they get those breadcrumbs over a certain period of time. And for me, I had to fall through that table and then listen to you with Jason. Like I think that was just part of my journey, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you know Dale before that? Was Dale one of your
Yeah,
mates
so
or
Dale was from my hometown where I'm from, Bendigo.
right?
So
Yeah.
I met Dale through university. So I did a social work placement at his old workplace.
Okay.
And he was talking to me about microwave food and just some like breadcrumbs back then about stuff. And I was like, fuck. But I researched the whole microwave thing, but never
Mm,
really actioned anything. And then in 2020, when it all started, my brother and I went down to the local sports store and he just happened to be there. And I had already watched the Jeffrey Epstein doco about child trafficking. So I
okay.
already saw what he was posting. I was like, oh, got any info about Australia's involvement? And then he gave me Rachel Vaughan, Barnett, Rena Michelson, and all these info. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, that path had already started then in March of
Yeah.
2020. Pretty
Wow.
wild. Yeah. So I hadn't seen
Yeah.
Dale for like 3 years, like since, and it just randomly
Oh,
in a
really?
sports store. Yeah. Shook my hand
Wow.
and gave
Okay.
me a hug. And
Yeah.
yeah, wild.
Yeah. We caught up a couple of months ago when he was in town. So
Oh, yeah,
he
cool.
come past Wollongong, and we caught up and had some lunch and all that kind of stuff. So he's a great guy.
Yeah.
I don't know how I stumbled onto him, but it was via YouTube or something like that because he was talking about the satanic rituals and all
Mm.
that kind of stuff. And coming from Wollongong, like we've got a huge large history of child abuse and satanic ritual abuse and all that kind of stuff. It's very much like in this hub. And yeah, so everything kind of resonated with me. I came from an all boys school. My principal at the time, Brother Evans, Michael Evans, he committed suicide when we were in like year 8 or year 9 because he got busted for touching up boys. We had a Lord Mayor, Frank Arkell. He got brutally murdered by one of his victims in his home here in Wollongong because, yeah, of the things that he was doing.
Wild.
Father Common Solely, like all that kind of stuff. Mate, we've got a fucking huge
Mm.
issue, and I can't imagine it's slowed down a lot. I think it's still very prevalent,
Mm.
just less talked about.
Yeah, I agree. And it's something that, yeah, it's something that a lot of people are talking about, but it's getting censored in that too. So, it's like everything really, isn't it?
Talk about the trafficking and things like that.
Mm.
There's a lady that I'm talking to soon. She's on a mission to take down Pornhub, and
Oh, okay.
the reason being is that there are a lot of people that you can upload content to Pornhub, and there's no verification of like who you are. You can do it
What,
anonymous.
anonymously?
Yeah, and
Really?
and then there's no verification of who the people are in the video. So you can upload your own content, but also there's like revenge porn and child trafficking and human trafficking and rape. And so the chances are is that if you've ever typed in teen porn or anything like that, you have probably watched a live rape, like a rape situation, or a woman
Jeepers.
or a boy who's been trafficked. So, and Pornhub have been taken to task a bunch of times. And one of the stories that she tells in her book is that there was this missing person, and this guy recognized the daughter of someone else, and then contacted the mum and said, "I've just seen your daughter online."
Yeah. Wow.
And that's how they tracked her down. And she'd been trafficked for more than a year at that point, but had been reported missing by her parents the time before. So, yeah, it's a very sinister sort of area that I don't think is getting enough attention. So I'll be
No,
looking for.
because I often talk about porn and that too, about how the traffic victims and that, and that's just like a surface level of, but yeah, it's just yeah.
Mm.
like, you know, when I was younger, I did watch a lot of Pornhub, but like, it's just not something I even contemplate doing anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, the unfortunate thing is like I was the same. So growing up, my exposure to pornography was very young. I
Yeah.
can remember as far back as probably 5 or 6.
Would have been magazines for you back then, mate, or videotapes.
VHS, yeah, that's right. VHS and mags and all the rest of it. So you got a hold of it. And unfortunately, the thing is like most of my learning about sex is being through pornography.
Same.
So you don't really think to the degree of how much it's affecting your opinion of women and what sex or lovemaking actually is,
Mm.
and your own body image. You know, you're looking at these guys with big fucking 10-inch cocks and all this kind of stuff, and you're looking down at yours, and you're like, well, not exactly well endowed here, compared to these blokes, and so it kind of fucks with you a lot
It
on a
does.
huge level, mentally, on a psychological level. And then as you grow up and you realize exactly what's behind it, or hopefully a lot of men and women are realizing that this is not a depiction of lovemaking, or it's not a depiction of what it means to be connected on a soul level to another human being. And then in terms of your own performance and all those sorts of things, because like I remember interviewing Cam Fraser and Helena Nister and all these people that are sex coaches, Kim and Ami, and they kind of mentioned that the the habits that porn creates is that it's a quick explosion
Yep.
of intensity and things like that, So Cam Fraser says like men are jacking off into porn, but they're jacking off into women the same way. It's just hard and fast and quick,
Yep.
and they don't realize that they're kind of building themselves up. Kim Anami says the same thing. You have been conditioning yourself for such a long time to come to a quick climax within a couple of minutes, and then wonder why like you can't last more than 5 minutes in bed is because you just trained yourself for like the sprint, right? And so your worldview and your paradigm of lovemaking and your ability and everything changes once you start to do away with all of that, and you kind of almost lessen the need for this high sensory, like ferocious sort of like explosive, climaxing and all the rest of it. You start to realize you can feel into your body, and you can
Yeah.
learn more about yourself and about what you like, and then you can kind of be more centered and be more present, and you can last longer, and you can express yourself, and you can be in the moment more. Like there's so many more fruits of just being connected to yourself, and porn and many other things disconnect you to the degree that you're seeing it as an act and nothing that's part of you. It's like a service to a very clinical degree. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because I used to be like that too. Because I used to always, because of my lifestyle, I did that a lot. But I was always saying to myself, I couldn't make the link between porn and lasting, right? I was like,
Right.
why am I only lasting, I used to joke about it with my old friends too, like 30 seconds, 20 seconds, buddy, 2 minutes. It's like, why? And I couldn't make that dot connect until I went on my journey of, like, I've been celibate for 3 years now, but I've started to put myself out there in the dating scene again,
Mm-hmm.
which I've just put out there now on a podcast with you. So that's really awesome now. So it's out
Watch them
there now.
flock. Watch them flock now.
That's it. That's probably why I had to clear my throat earlier.
Got to get it
But
out.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like I could never make that dot connect until I went on that journey of, pretty much, like rediscovering myself, and then coming across Kim Anami's work,
Mm.
and then going, well, I've been programmed to do sex this way. That was purely from porn. Because then you sort of hold on to that energy and use that energy in other areas of your life. Now I'm back in that space again. It's like I can just slow down and just, yeah, be grateful and enjoy that present moment of connecting with another soul. Because to be honest with you, Adrian, I've never connected with another soul on a deep level like that. There, I've said it. There goes the throat.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, and I think that a lot of people would feel the same if they're really honest with themselves. They'd admit that that is something that they haven't really had a chance to do as well. I think
Mm,
relationship is such a powerful thing, particularly an intimate one,
mm.
because it starts with a new understanding and appreciation of oneself, and then with a lot of courage and a lot of humility and a lot of vulnerability, you can then express yourself in such a way which is unique to you, and it's in appreciation of your own light and dark and shadows, and all the ugly parts that you've been trying to hide from the world for the majority of your life. And then when you finally get to the moment where you can be really free and expressive without shame, without being ridiculed, without betrayal, like without someone holding it against you down the track and using it for nefarious reasons or something that they can hold over you, is a very truly liberating feeling. And it only peels back all of the layers so that level of connectedness to another human being can be achieved. And when you feel like you're in this really nice, calm, centered presence in this way of being, when you have someone come into your life that is on that similar level and that same trajectory and that mission and personal growth and that life path, you do away with the butterflies and the nervousness and the that anxious attachment type of thing. It's very different, almost unusual. And you start to think, well, in the absence of butterflies and nervousness and that sort of jitters and all the rest of it, maybe there's something here that I'm missing. Maybe it's just like, it's not the person, or it's not the one, or maybe it's a little bit boring. Maybe there's no excitement. Like, what am I missing here? And then you realize after a period of time, you're like, no, you're not missing anything. It's in the absence of what you labeled as butterflies, and that's the indicator that person that's really geeing you up. But really, it's more to do with trauma and attachment and trauma bonding and all of these things that are firing your nervous system in a way that makes you feel like maybe there's some sort of connection, but really it's just your inner dialogue, your inner emotions playing up to the degree that they're unsettled. And so that's a very interesting dynamic play. And when you start to do away with all of that, just from my experience, and not that I'm like there, but I'm getting really close to being really calm and really centered and really present and less fearful of the future and less anxious of the future, less fearful of the past, all that kind of stuff. It's a very calming kind of demeanor. You realize that things are just playing out just the way that they are, and you're more of an observer. You feel into moments. You can argue better. You can have really in-depth conversations, and then you can feel really understood and really heard and really present and really accepted and really appreciated and really respected and really validated, really loved, really cherished, really honored, really revered, like all of these really juicy kind of emotions and feelings and moments.
Probably sums up my last 3 weeks. All of that just then.
You said that
Because,
last.
yeah, I did. Well, it's every time we talk, but it's like I've thrown myself back in that space, and it's been an interesting sort of journey with that stuff, because I was feeling like I was doing it a certain way that I didn't feel was right, but it's like, no, it was the programming that I had at the time. And it's like you sort of go on that journey and you change that. So then I was big on, I need to do it the right way. Like I was focused on, I have to do this the right way. It's like, well, there's no right or wrong way. There's just a better way. And there's a better way than what you were doing, 5-6 years ago. I just went on a journey in the last few years of like pretty much shutting myself off from any woman connection for the last 3 years. But then in the last 6 months, it's like, well, I've done all this work on my own, on myself to better myself. And I had a beautiful friend tell me there's only so much work you can do on your own, Nathan. It's like time for you to do some work with someone else and start that journey and open the heart back up. And it's like, well, when is the right time? I just thought, well, I need to do something. So took some action, start putting myself out there, getting haircuts and looking a bit more physically better. It's like, well, now I can actually step out into the world and actually allow a connection in that I can sort of grow and evolve with, because there's still more work I'll need to do it myself when a woman
Of
comes
course.
into my life. I've had a
Mm,
few women come in the last few weeks, and they're probing me with questions like, the honesty thing. Like for me, it's not playing those childlike games anymore. It's like, do you know what you want, Nath? Go after it. Be honest. And they're probing me with questions, and then
mm.
allowing me to express that honesty and not run away in the corner like I used to when those tough conversations would come up. It's like I want to embrace them now.
Yeah, that's great.
But Jesus Christ, mate, it's made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, I think if you can be more at ease with being uncomfortable, it'll only prove to you that there's something beyond all of that fear and those lower vibration emotions is what you really desired is on the other side of all of that, as cliche as that sounds, So yeah, and I think also too, like you can read all the relationship books you like, you can listen to all the podcasts you like, but nothing will prepare you and change you around relationships than being in a relationship.
Mm,
So
literally.
you can read the books, but until you're in a very sticky situation with another, conscious woman, then you'll have challenges, and they'll be in your face, and you'll have the opportunity to either navigate through it or run away and face like your demons at another time.
Mm,
And that to me is kind of like that's a green flag. So if my relationship is has blossomed to the degree where we've had like all of those really uncomfortable relationships and conversations and talks about things that in other ways, in other times, you would have run away, you would have maybe shamed or ridiculed, or you would have snapped back, or you would have squashed someone down to the degree that they don't have a voice anymore.
yeah.
Those sorts of things. And so when you can have that level of communication, it gives you a sense of when they don't run away or when you don't run away, you're like, okay, this is great because we can work through this. In the
Yeah.
past, an argument or a difficult situation might have looked like this big sort of, clash of titans, and as a big eruption, it gets really no resolution, and then we go away and we stonewall each other for 3 or 4 days, and then when that all settles down, we get back together. But then that same vicious cycle starts again, right? Something comes up, we don't really resolve it. There's a big explosion. You're this and you're that, and no, blah blah blah. I hate you. Let's go away. We come back, and this cycle keeps going and going and going, and we don't realize that we're in a pattern that is not really resolution based, it's not really connections based, it's not really moving forward. There's no values of growth or opportunity here. There's just fight, flight, stonewalling, just all of this kind of like trauma bonding, all this wounding that's coming up, and it just keeps perpetuating over and over again. It's a sick cycle.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I'm just listening. It's just a really awesome conversation because yeah, I think I know why I had that throat thing earlier too. Like I was supposed
Yeah.
to have this conversation with you today, and I was sort of was like it was just here, ready to come out. So yeah, I was just gonna
Yeah.
say, like, have you? Because I know as part of your story, I'm just going to probe you here now. As part of your
Sure.
story, you went through a bit of a marriage breakdown. Have you got yourself back out in that space again now? Are you dating or seeing anyone? Are you ready to even talk about that
Yeah.
on the
Yeah, I
spot?
have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my marriage fell apart 4 years ago last month. So it's something that I'm happy to talk about. I think to the degree that I still want to be mindful and respectful to my children and their mum.
Yep.
And I know that there's other people that may or may not listen to something like this. So I don't want to talk in terms of she was this and that was that and all the rest of it. There was things that during the pandemic just made me realize that perhaps there was something that I was ignoring for too long, and that kind of like brought everything to the surface. Um, I can't say that I was the best in that relationship, the best version of myself. There are times where there's parts of me that I truly am yeah, I hated and was disgusted by it because I just, yeah, wasn't the best person, wasn't the best version of myself. I did things that she didn't deserve, and it's just that was that part of me that I guess at the moment I've come to peace with, and I have forgiven myself for, and this new version of me that I want to portray to the world was my do-over opportunity. So I was alone for, I don't know, nearly 15, 16, 17 months, something like that, after my separation. And I really wanted to get to know myself for the very first time. I'd always been the type of person that didn't really want to be alone. I didn't like being alone. I wanted to, if I would go out, and if I had 5 minutes, I'd rather call you and someone else and someone else and someone else and just see if we can get together and have a catch up. I just want to be bored by myself or be with my own company. So I took that opportunity to be by myself for quite a while and really get to understand the parts of me that I didn't like and I wanted to correct and appreciate and change. And then also parts of me that I'd forgotten. There's parts of you, Nathan, that
Yeah,
it's like, man, I used to be this way, and like now I'm not. And something happened where I've dimmed my light, or I've not done
yeah,
that thing anymore, and all the rest of it. So I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be that person. I want to, that part of me that I lost when I was, a child, or when I was a teenager, or in my
yeah,
20s, bring that person back, and want to integrate that person into my life. So it took me a while to kind of get out there. I had a small opportunity to kind of like get back into the dating game, and it wasn't by way of me putting myself out there. It was just an opportunity that I thought, like, this is someone that I'm connecting with, is someone that I'm vibing with, and it started with a conversation and all those sorts of things. So that was kind of like my entry point back into it. I had a moment where I met someone that was like, I don't know, just a left field sort of person. I didn't really feel like that person was not ever going to be someone on my radar, so to speak. I don't know if that sounds a bit too disconnected, but it was like I never really expected this person to come into my life. And so we dated for a little while, but it changed me to the degree that I started to feel what it was like to be loved and to love again, and to be more connected, and embody and embrace this moment of just embodying the person that I said that I wanted to become. So
yeah,
this was my chance to go, well, I know you say these things about, how you want to be more embodied, and how you want to be more congruent, and how you want to do all these things. But are you actually living that truth? Are you actually putting that to the test? And so that was my kind of like, again, a bit more of an exploration into just being the person that I wanted to be. So yeah, I did go on a dating apps for a couple of weeks. It was the most toxic, negative environment that I've ever experienced in my life. It was just really shit. I started to become disingenuine and fake, just wanting to say the right things to elicit a conversation. But it was horrible. It was just a shitty experience. I didn't like it, and it lasted a few weeks, and I was just like, I'm done with this shit. It's no good. If there's anything that's going to happen now, it's going to be purely by the forces of energy and
yeah,
vibration, connectedness, and all that kind of stuff. And so I set an intention. So based
yep,
on this woman that I've met, like I said, it was a 4-5 month relationship. It didn't really last that long, but it was powerful in the sense of life lessons that I learned out of that. We were really connected, but there were things that were out of alignment and just weren't going to work. So with that being said, I'm like, you know what? There are parts of this that I really, really love, and there are parts of me in that scenario that I really like. And if I can recreate that again, it would be with this type of person. And so I started to create a vision and almost like an intention of like, this is how old I want them to be somewhere between this age and this age. I want them to be interested in this. I want them to have values of that. And I want them to have like this type of interest in health and well-being and my views of the world, which is, let's say we use a common throwaway term, which is like, awake or consciousness or, anything like that. So they kind of need to be vibing at my level with those types of values. And, I describe them in a way in terms of their features and their hair color and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just doing this like walking the beat. I go for a walk every morning, and I was just walking the beach and kind of going, okay, well, this is what I want to call into my life. So that started the trajectory of other people that started to connect. And then I started to have some courage to kind of reach out and, make some connections and things like that. And in a long-winded, long story, it led to an opportunity that started with a conversation. And it was just like getting to know each other. It started for, a couple of months, and then sort of 5 months, and then 6 months, and then almost a year, that sort of thing. So this was like, a long gestation period of just getting to know someone for who they are and what they like and dislike and all the rest of it, and having those opportunities to connect. And we had like similar timelines. We had similar life events. We were living this sort of like parallel lives. It's like I don't know if it's like a sliding door moment, but everything she went through her life is everything that I went through my life. The only difference being was that it was just at like a different age, So, but all those sort of I don't know, lights on the runway were sort of lining up. So that led to physical connection, and then sort of bred into more of a are we in alignment? Are we on path with this? Like, is this something that we want? And we're kind of speaking into a future. And in my do-over opportunity, as I like to call it, I'm now starting to sort of look at things as saying, well, rather than feed off any kind of emotion or situation or whatever, let's just see how this plays out, and let's see how my body responds, and let's see how she responds. And I guess in all of that, as esoteric as it sounds, what become of that was this agreement between each other, because we had such similar timelines, was that we were going to be a certain way, and we were going to honor those values and those belief systems, and we're going to embody it. And to the degree that if this was going to ever work out, then this is the tone that we need to be set on the whole time. And we need to hold ourselves accountable to be that person or that version of ourselves, and not slip back into old habits. So yeah, to answer your question, I have met someone. It's been a couple of years, actually on the 12th of December to be 2 years. So, and it's beautiful, it's a wonderful relationship and connection. It's something that I've always imagined and dreamed of. And when I think about this person, I think that she's everything that I ever wanted. And so, as to where this goes from the future, like nobody knows. As someone who's been married for 20 years and has that relationship experience, I often say, and this is going to sound, it's going to sound, I don't know, a bit off-putting to some people, but like I've said someone like to death do us part, and that didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, so when I say that, I mean, it's not that I'm trying to avoid any attachment or commitment or anything like that, but I'm really interested and intrigued, and I'm really committed to embodying everything in this moment and everything going forward that is congruent and in alignment with all of those values and belief systems, and honoring each other through the whole way. And when things get to the point, which they do, where you're like, you know what, we're not in alignment, we're off balance, we're not on track at the moment, and to pull that into alignment again, is becoming one of the most rewarding experiences that I've ever had. So it's an amazing time. It's a time to celebrate each other and to explore the possibilities of a future together and all those sorts of things. There's heaps of dynamics at play. My kids, her kids, like man, it's pretty full on. But at the same time, like we just have this really aligned values, aligned beliefs, appreciation, connection, uh, chemistry. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
kind of all there in spades, and so it's going to be interesting to see where it all goes.
Mm. That's awesome, man. Like for someone that's young like me, I can take a lot of gold nuggets out from that. And I'm sure a lot of people listening as well. Even a lot of people listening that have been in your boat too, not just young bucks like me. But
Mm.
there are a lot of young bucks like me that do listen to this podcast, Adrian. And if there's a piece of advice for the young bucks, this might be a piece of advice for me actually. What would you give to someone that's in the last 3 months, so this is me, that's put themselves back out there in that space?
Mm.
Mm.
Well, I think if you take everything that I just said, which is, a very long answer to your question of like, have you met someone? um, it, I would, in summary, I would put all of that together. So if you really don't understand, and I've talked to heaps of coaches about this before, because when you talk about like the masculine and the feminine dynamic, and you talk about all of those things, attachment styles and love languages and all the rest of it, it can get to a point where um, if you start to play too heavily into those wordings and those that sort of sentence of things, divine masculine, divine feminine, holding space, all of these fucking buzzwords and everything like that people go on about, you can sort of do away with it to the degree you're like, man, I'm just sick of this. You know what I mean? Like, how much do I have to? I just want to be a man. I just want to fucking,
Yeah.
eat shit, lift weights. You know what I mean? Like, I just, I know that sounds really barbaric, but I just want to be this. And then women are like, well, I just want to be revered and honored and cherished and feel safe and present and all of these words. So amidst all of that, you can get lost to the degree if you use that language on each other and all the rest of it, it kind of like becomes, again, sort of clinical and it's devoid of any spontaneity and naturalness and all the rest of it. But
Yeah.
it's imperative that you actually know those as a foundational to like how you behave, how you are, because you're getting to know yourself. So for me, attachment styles was a game changer in terms of just understanding myself and then understanding others, because I would use those attachment style sort of compartments and go, okay, well, she was like this and I'm like that. So that explains that relationship dynamic. It gives almost like a answers at the back of the book type of scenario, because you're like, okay, now I can figure out why that was the way it was. When you look into love languages and things like that, it's very basic and very I don't know, to me it's like, oh, so this is just a love language and all the rest of it, and that's pretty clinical or whatever. But it's essential to know, because what you're essentially doing is you're finding out more about yourself, but you're interested in how your partner operates and how they tick. And excuse me, my throat shark is playing up as well. It's catching on. And the interesting thing about that is you get to know how to express love in their language, because all we've ever done is say, this is how I want to receive love, so I'm going to give you in the same way that I like to receive. And the opposite is true. You wonder why you're repelling people away. But if I serve you in your love language and you serve me in mine, we both feel like we're connected and whole and present and loved and cherished and honored and revered, because we now have a value of servitude to each other, right? Which again is like nothing new under the sun there. But these are critical things for men and women to learn. If you don't understand anything about childhood trauma, childhood wounding, and how that comes about, and how you learn from the ages of 0 to 7. You model off the people that did the best they could with the knowledge that they had. If you don't know about that, well, then it makes it hard to put all the pieces of the puzzle together, because you are missing some of the parts. Right? It's
Mm.
like looking for this completion of the jigsaw puzzle, but half of the pieces are under the table. You can't find them, and so you fucking like, none of this works. I don't know how I can put this whole thing together. I'm missing parts of it, and that's what's missing. The missing is the understanding of self, values and belief systems, love languages, the all of those things, anything to do with trauma and attachment styles. These are all really good foundations. So yeah, I mean, there's tons of books, and even on my podcast, like I've interviewed Julie Manano, who wrote the book Attachment, and all those sorts of things. Like, they're great. If you look at yeah, I mean, there's so much resources around there, but that would be my advice. My advice is to get to know yourself and get those foundations done, and then let something naturally evolve from that. Because once you're aware, you can't be unaware. Once you know, you can't unknow. Once you learn, you can't unlearn. You either choose to embody this way of life, or you don't.
Yeah, that's well said, and that's a really awesome piece of advice too, especially for a young buck like me that is conscious and that is aware, and that yeah. What's your love language, Adrian? We're talking
Physical
about it a
touch.
bit now.
Yeah, physical touch and words of affirmation.
Oh, there you go. All right,
Yeah.
yeah, mine's physical touch too.
Yeah, what would your other one be?
Well, I've been taking the quiz for a couple of years, but I might have to take the quiz again. I reckon it would be either words of affirmation or gifts, kindness. Is it gifts of kindness? Is that one of them?
Yeah.
Gifts, something like that. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'll take that quiz, I reckon, now after this conversation.
Yeah, there's always a couple, and there's one main one. But I find that, yeah, for me, it's like physical intimacy, all that kind of, touching and all that nice stuff is great. And you need to tell me like how good I am, and how much you appreciate me and all that kind of stuff. So, but I think, like, yeah, it's an important thing to know,
Yeah.
but it's also important to know how to serve others. So, like, my partner's words of affirmation and physical touch, like, as well, and so I've got to be mindful that I like to receive all of the praise and things like that, but I also got to become better at giving praise. So yeah, I don't have an issue with the physical touch side of things. It's just like a part of me that's just like that, and it's very natural. But the words of affirmation is something that I really need to be conscious of, and make sure that I'm acknowledging and praising and doing things like this, which I know she'll love.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll listen too.
She does, yeah.
Yeah. Adrian,
Yeah,
this has been a really awesome conversation again. Like, for anyone out there that's listening and watching right now, like, for me, mate, it's just to be, I don't know, I think I'm about 17 years younger than you. Like, I can take so much from this conversation, and who really knows who else is listening that can take so much too. I encourage anyone listening to this to go and listen to your podcast. I started my journey from it, and you had some really awesome people on there as well. And I think there are some coaches that you've interviewed that I need to get on my platform as well. So I might have to hit you up for
yeah.
some emails and that too. Adrian,
Who would you get on?
who was that guy you had on that wrote that book about parenting?
Parenting?
The guy in America, the father, the whitehead guy. I can't remember his name. That was a good
Oh,
conversation
um,
because you sent me
the myth of male power, and
yeah, that's the one.
yeah, why am I blanking on his name? That's
Yeah, I'm
terrible.
blanking on his name too
Hold on a second.
because I ordered his book the other day.
Did you really? Which one?
Yeah. The one you suggested that I got, the newer one, the one about
The
fatherhood.
relationship one?
Yeah, with the father,
Warren
yeah.
Warren Farrell.
That's it. Warren
Yeah.
Farrell. Anyone out there, listen to that episode with Adrian's podcast. Warren was awesome. And
Yeah,
I'm getting him on.
Warren would say yes to your podcast. He's really good. One of the things I love about the podcasting space is 99% of people say yes. Like,
Yeah.
they're happy to share their knowledge and their wisdom, and they want to get their message across the world. But Warren is really good for several reasons. Is one, he used to be a male feminist
Yeah,
in
I
the
read.
70s,
Yeah,
right? So like he was a pioneer in that sense. And he started speaking out about the imbalances between men and women on the back of the feminist movement, but then realized that there was actually a lot more to that area, and things weren't as skewed as what the feminists are saying. And so, the Myth of Male Power is a great book to read. The Boy Crisis was a really moving and touching book for me. I've
that's
got
the
three
one.
boys, so that was a really touching book. And yeah, and on the podcast, like I cried
You
twice.
did.
Like it's just um, it really is a moving part of me because I've experienced myself how toxic relationships can get and how like there's toxic femininity and toxic masculinity. There are abusive women and there are abusive men. There are women that rape children and there are men that rape children. Like there's good and evil on both sides, and the divide of how we've been pitted against each other, which is just an age-old divide and conquer type of strategy, is has worked to a large degree. And I think that this is actually changing because, like you said, you're putting yourself out there, and it sounds like you're attracting women who are helping you stand up to your own brochure, right, and live up to your
Literally,
own brochure because they're kind of putting you on the spot. And now you've got to say, well, am I going to be the man that I said that I was, or I'm going to be
literally.
the version that they used to, which is
Because for
the sort
three
of dark.
years, as you said, because for 3 years I said, look, this is the man I want to embody. This is the type of relationship I want. This is the type of family. Da 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 da. It's like, well, okay, we're gonna put you to the test now. So yeah, the last 3 months have really tested me on that front because it's like, well, are you ready to actually be this person now? And yeah, that's had its challenges, but yeah, I feel like I am, and that's why this is happening, and that's why our conversation happened today. It's just more signs that yeah, and you're right too. Like we need to start embodying. We can't be out there saying things and then doing another. And I know for me, I'm really big on that. That's one of my big values is embodying that version of me. So yeah, you're right. Those tests have
Well,
have
I can tell
come.
that about you. I mean, from the things that I see online, you are speaking the language that you want to. You're pushing and trying to converge a message across, which is helping the version of yourself 10 years ago that you needed.
Literally.
So I can see all of that. And then, I can see that you're pushing weights and you're getting that physical fitness and you're putting yourself out there to the degree that you are vulnerable, and you're not diluting the version of you that you want others to see. And I think that that is a commendable thing because of several reasons. One is like you're authentic, and authenticness is a very attractive vibe. When someone may not be your cup of tea, but when you can appreciate that they are a complete individual or authentic in their own skin, that's a very respectable quality. And so that's something that I think would people love it or leave it, they're going to respect you for that. And then the other side of it is like from a health and fitness, particularly from a masculine point of view. I know we talked off air about some of those things. Like I think it's a necessary part for a lot of men because we just don't have the upbringing and the rites of passage that we used to traditionally growing up. It's not something that needs to be reintroduced to a large degree, but I think there are versions of that you can introduce into your life.
Yep.
And one of those things is doing very hard things and overcoming obstacles. And so you can't go out into the wilderness every day and fight a fucking boar and see how you go with things, but you can go to the gym and lift a really heavy fucking weight, and you can do it to the degree that when your body says no and you keep going, you do one more. That's a feat of strength and something that teaches you how to push through tough moments and uncomfortableness that your body says, I don't want to do this, and you need to back out. You can do breath work and you can do ice baths, and whilst I'm not sort of like a big proponent of all of that, I appreciate the difficultness, the degree of difficultness to get through a 2 or 3 or 4 minute ice bath at 1, 2, 3 or 4 degrees. You know, it's an uncomfortable scenario. To go into a sauna and stay there at 85 or 90 degrees for 15 minutes is uncomfortable. It gets you to a point where it's just hard to do. To push through a huge leg set, you know, a huge leg workout, which is just exhausting, and all those sorts of things. It's a hard thing to do, and it's a very, it requires a lot of oxygen. It requires a lot of mental stamina, a lot of physical stamina. And like I said to you off air, like I've started MMA and wrestling and all that kind of stuff. Man, when you're having a roll with another guy who's like 80 kilos or 90 kilos and they're pinning you down and you're helpless and you can't fucking get up, and for all your might, you just can't get around or get out of this stranglehold this person's got on you. It's a very demoralizing, uncomfortable situation to be in. But when you learn tools and strengths and techniques and strategies to get around and out of that difficult scenario, bro, the mindset shift, the physical connectedness to yourself, the way that you kind of walk through the day, you fucking own the street. You know, you're walking with a new strut that is like different to what it was the day before, simply because you put yourself through a difficult time that you were able to then stick with long enough to learn what you needed to know to get out of that situation. Make sense?
Yeah.
And so when you embody all of those things, it adds to like the piece of the puzzle, and it completes versions of you that were left out when you were younger, that maybe your dad didn't have the opportunity to walk you through that rites of passage or introduce you to, or maybe you didn't have a dad, you know, or maybe your mum had to become more of the father role model in the absence of your dad leading and all that kind of stuff. So you have an opportunity to inject those parts of you, and in a sense you become the father that you never had, right? So it's a very powerful situation to be, but it starts with embodying all of those things so you're congruent with the way that you want to lead your life. And then opportunities like these women that are coming into your life, these podcast guests that are coming in, the coaching opportunities, you never would have been in that scenario had you not put yourself in a situation that was uncomfortable, unfamiliar, and you had to learn your way out of it to get the outcome that you wanted. You with me?
Yeah, I'm with you. Because that sums up my last 4 years since I spoke to Dale in that independent store, sports store.
There you go.
And then that podcast, like with you, like, you know, 4 hours prior to listening to that podcast, mate, I was talking to 3 young girls. I was 7 years older than them. And I fall through that table. And then 3 hours later, your podcast with Jason was sent to me from Dale. I'm like, bang. Look where we are now.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing too. Like the gym has challenged me in those moments. It's like that one more rep when it's real, you know, like that's mental, as you said, mental confidence, but also mental like strength that I never had.
Mm-hmm.
So exactly. That's that extra layer.
You can apply that to all areas of life.
100%.
Yeah. So that's the thing. When I was speaking to Melissa Cook the other day, there was something that I mentioned in that podcast was about I have cultivated the ability to withstand large amounts of stress and pressure for long periods of time, right? And I feel that a large part of that comes from the fact that I've been in the gym since I was 13. Yeah. Like I have really pushed through grueling workouts, and I know it sounds a bit like, you know, what the fuck's this guy talking about? But I remember meeting one of my best mates in the gym, and I used to get nervous on Monday because legs was on Wednesday, and I knew that I was going to vomit because they were that intense and that grueling. So fast forward to now, and particularly in the last 4 years, like we mentioned before, I went through that separation, but then we also all went through the pandemic. And for me, I also closed a big business down. You know, I also lost millions of dollars. I also got injured. Like there were so many things that I endured in that time and that are only now starting to be resolved 4 years later, right? So had I not had the the background, the upbringing, the foundations of resilience and staying power and stamina and endurance through all of those hard times, looking at a life of a glass half full when things were clearly half empty, right? So it was just, though, that paradigm of the world helped me get through these sticky moments. And I had people say to me, like, I can't believe that you're not here. I had a mate break down the other night because I told him about a friend of mine who committed suicide. And he said, don't you do anything stupid, man. And I'm like, he goes, I can't believe you're still here after all that's gone through in your life. And this is why I've got no intentions of taking myself off this planet. I haven't even come close to it. And, amongst all the things that I've just told you about, it's not a flex, it's not a brag at all. It's just, that's the foundations that I've had. And these are all life lessons and path of the course that I have unknowingly cultivated through my life experiences to the degree that I can now push through these big times. And to what you said before, 2025 is looking good.
Mm.
I feel the most optimistic, and anything can change at a moment's notice, but I feel the most optimistic that I ever have. I've got a zest for life and an abundance mindset, and much less scarcity than what I ever had. And a large part of my life has been fueled by FOMO and fears and regrets and all of these sort of negative things, which have served the purpose to a degree. But now it's time to flourish, and things are looking good.
I'm feeling the same way, mate. Feeling the exact same way. Like, I posted a video of myself during the week having a bit of a dance in the kitchen. Like, I'm feeling good, man.
Was that the banana one? Which one?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, did you see that one? Did you?
It's hilarious.
Reach out to me on my banana phone if you need hand. Being authentic. So just thought I'd just express more of me. Like, that's the. What you said before. We'll finish on this. How you said before that there were parts of you that you sort of let go, and you're like, oh, that's actually a part of me that was actually like me doing humorous, funny shit like that was a part of me that I did sort of just close. It's like, that's me being authentic. Like, I've always been fun and had a bit of a joke and a laugh and a bit of a larrikin, and it's like, well, I can still, as you said, I can still be that guy, but it's in a different way. And it's like, I can put that out there. Like, I don't know, with these algorithms though, Adrian, we can probably talk about this now too. Like, that video that I did talking on a banana phone got more views and more likes than who knows a reel from this will get. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, look, we can't sort of buy too much into algorithms and all that kind of stuff because everything's very much curated for the listener and the viewer and all that kind of stuff. But there is an algorithm of life which you can tap into, and we can definitely become more attuned to that for sure.
Yep. That's definitely well said. Adrian, how would you sum all of this up, mate? Is there anything you want to leave my viewers and my listeners on from today, and also where people can find you if they're only new to your work as well? And I'll definitely, for anyone out there, I'll put the links to our other conversations in here as well if you are new to Adrian. But yeah, just a summary and where people can find you, mate.
Well, firstly, thank you, mate. I appreciate this opportunity. I love being on the other side of the mic, so to speak, and it's a great opportunity. So I really appreciate you for that, and for anyone who's listening. I think, look, the summary of this conversation really is that there is never a right time than right now to make a change, and if that's what you truly wish and truly desire, everything that you ever wanted, as cliche as it sounds, is on the other side of fear, and it's not as bad as what you think it is. You build these sort of little monsters into big insurmountable creatures, and they're really not that very frightening at all, and they don't have a lot of power. A quote that comes to mind is like, it's easy to kill little monsters. It's easy to kill monsters when they're small. So if there's anything that's creeping up in your life and you feel like it's a limitation, or then the actual decision to make that change, to get over it and get over yourself, is not that very difficult at all. And it's most often that we are the people that are getting in our own way. It's not society, it's not someone else, it's not the economy, it's not money, because at any one point in time, you can look at the depictions of the last 4 years and say it's never been a worse time in history, but also there are plenty of evidence out there to say it's also the best time in history. There are people making millions and millions of dollars in the passions and fields that they love. There are people that are having great relationships, awesome sex. There are people that are becoming the best parents. There are people that are going on great holidays. There are people that are working on world-changing technologies. Like at any particular one time in this moment, there is something amazing happening, and there's no reason why it can't be you that's affecting that change.
That's awesome. And where can people find you, mate, if they're new to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm across all the socials, but I'm mostly present on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is at Adrian underscore D'Amico, and Facebook is like Adrian D'Amico. So yeah, you can go and find me there and connect with anything. Much of my sort of content and bits and pieces like that. If you want to connect with me on a coaching level or business side of things, then my email and everything is all on there. So people can go and explore to what they like and have a follow and connect out, and hopefully we can do something together. If not, there's an inspiring message or someone there to help you along the way.
Thanks, mate. Really appreciate you jumping on, and very, very grateful that I crossed your paths when I fell through that table, thanks to Dale. So I'm very, very glad that this has all happened, mate. And yeah, when I'm cruising down through Wollongong, which I am probably going to go to Victoria at some point, so I will definitely call in and see you, and we'll have to have lunch, mate.
That'd be
Good to see you in person. Might even do a workout with you, mate.
Let's do it.
See if you can put me through my paces.
Yeah, for sure.
Righto, this has been the Breaking Free podcast, guys. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, everyone, for listening, watching, wherever the world you are. I'll talk to you guys again real soon, and I'll talk to Adrian again soon, too. I'm not going to wait 12 months this time, mate.
Legend. Thank you, mate.
Righto, talk to you later.